to another edition of Holding Court with the coach, Todd Dagenais. I'm Jeff Sharon. Thank you so much for joining us. UCF kicking off the conference slate on the road. Always a tough place to play, Huntington, West Virginia is, and UCF coming up short in 2 matches at Marshall. Coach, it was a tough weekend in both of those matches, and we talked a little bit about how it's the back-to-back with the new schedule this year in Conference USA, but you said afterwards your team is right there, so close, right there on that razor edge of really breaking out.
Right. Here we go. We're back into a situation where we played 6 sets, and 4 of them we lost by 2 points, and 1 of them we lost, I think, by 4 points. So, I mean, we're losing matches. That's we get that. We're losing the matches, but the reality is we're 1 swing away from winning sets, and we're then 2 swings away from being up 2-1. And so, I think when you get to that point, and you're dropping those sets, and it starts to become a habit. The easy thing that you see in sports are teams start to fray apart. It's really easy to protect yourself when you're in that situation. And so, where we are now is we're making the conscious effort that we're going to stay together, we're going to have fun, we're going to work our way through this, and we really just need a break. We need a break. And, you like to control the destiny, where you control your breaks by getting kills and blocks and things like that. But, all we just need 1 more break, and those games turn in our favor. And that's on the horizon. I honest to goodness believe that those breaks are on the horizon. So, really, there is no panic. We're aware. We're very aware of what's going on. But there's no panic. And we're making a very conscious effort that we stay together, we support each other, we back each other up, we continue to work hard, we push each other, we hold each other accountable. And those kinds of things have a way of working back in your favor.
When we look back at those matches, you talked about staying together, and I can't imagine what it must have been like to go through that because, like we mentioned, let's start by looking at the first match against Marshall and Huntington on Thursday, 27-25, 25-20, 26-24, like you said. It's a difference of 2 swings either way because 2 of the 3 sets went past 25. So to see your team come so close and come up short in that, like we said, it was deceiving. It's always deceiving to see 3-0 when it's that close. But one of the highlights, Kristen Fisher, 15-11, her 6th double-double. When you got through that match, you knew that you had to come back to Huntington again to play the Thundering Herd again the next day. What did you tell the team right after that, saying, okay, we need to focus on, was it a matter of focus, or how was their attitude different from time to time?
I don't think it's a matter of focus, not at all. It's just a matter of executing a skill, having the confidence to execute a skill when it matters the most. And that's where the young team's just been struggling. And, we try our best to replicate that in practice, but really, the only way you get through that is in a match. Yeah. And, we just need to play more matches, and we're going to be in that situation, and we're just going to have to crack our way through it. So heading into the second night, we felt good. We felt like we could make some adjustments, which we did, and I thought we did a real nice job of the adjustments that we made. And of course, Mitch being the coach that he is, they made some adjustments, and I was very impressed. Like we said before, I think the team that loses the first night has the advantage the second night. And I certainly felt that was the case, at least for the first 2 sets. But they made some nice adjustments, too. They switched up their lineup a little bit, put some other people in there, and so we couldn't really dial in on them the way that we thought. And ultimately, when it just came down to it, their experienced players made plays when it mattered the most. The senior setter, really, Fleming, did a great job. I think she could very well be the best setter in the conference. And then the right side hitter, Herman, just really took charge of the match. And we're still waiting for that kind of player to evolve onto our team, and it's going to be a while. Yeah. We're counting on a lot of freshmen and sophomores to have to step up and play, and they're capable of doing it, and they will do it. But I think Marshall has the advantage of early in the season, being at home, and a couple go-to players on their team that they really found the ability to ride to the finish line.
Let me ask you about the adjustments that you make in heading into that second match, because it's such a unique experience that we really haven't seen too much of here at UCF, but the change in schedule sort of mandates that. How did the younger players on your team really focus on those adjustments? Did you see them sort of get a little bit more involved in that sort of chess match from Thursday night to Friday night that you and the Marshall coach played against each other in those two matches?
Yeah, sure, without a doubt. Of course, we tried to coach them and teach them in those things, but it's one thing. We'll break down maybe 4 matches against each opponent, and so it's one thing to watch them on video. The speed of the game and the physicality of the game changes in person, and so having that one night under your belt where you see the physicality and you see more subtle cues right there in front of you versus on film. And a really experienced team will do that the first night in the first set. An inexperienced team, it might take a whole match to do that. So I thought we made some great adjustments. Our blocking was great. I think our defense was really good. And we really stepped up in some areas that we struggled. And I think that's the growth that we're looking for in our team. We'd like to see the growth on the scoreboard. We'd like to see the growth in the wins. But to come back and block better, come back and play better defense, or come back and set certain situations better, those are all very positive signs that we're really on the verge of coming out of some of this stuff.
Yeah, you mentioned that too, and 11 blocks for UCF in the second match against Marshall. Again, so close, 25-23 in the first set, 28-26 in the second. So UCF starts off the conference season 0-2, still 7-7 overall. As we take a look back out at the conference, 4 teams are off to 2-0 starts. Tulsa is at 11-2 overall. SMU, Tulsa beat Memphis in their first 2. SMU beat UAB in their first 2. UTEP over ECU, and of course Marshall got off to a 2-0 start against UCF. What have you seen from the action around the conference? And again, Tulsa just gets a lot of the press coming through Conference USA. This is their first test against Memphis. They seem to pass with flying colors.
Yeah, I don't think they're going to have any issue early on. They're a really good team, I think. They were tested early. They played some tough matches, and they dropped a match or two, and but it's helped them. They're mid-season form right now, and on paper, there's going to be some teams that are going to have a real hard time beating them. I see Tulsa going in conference maybe, 19-1,
Wow.
18-2, 17-3, probably at the worst. I think they really got a good shot at running away with this thing. But I think SMU is a huge wild card because I don't know how good they are, but I surmise that they're really good. Southern Miss has the ability to get hot. Rice is good. Marshall, we saw, I think they are, talking to some of their fans up there, they feel like the Marshall is one of those teams that's really, really good at home, and then maybe they'll struggle a little bit on the road. And if that's the case, depends on where you get Marshall. Marshall could be a hot team, but I don't know. I think other than Tulsa, SMU, I think things are really, really wide open, and I don't think we're a last place team. I'm not even concerned about that. I just think we got some work to do to get to where we want to get. And I think realistic goal right now for us this year, we finish somewhere in the middle of that pack. We find a way to get more Conference USA wins than we've ever had before. And I think we're going to call that a pretty successful season with a young team and a great stepping stone for the future. So we've got some work to do on that, but I think every single one of our goals is still achievable.
Let me ask you about Houston coming up, which is the next opponent on the road. And you guys are starting off with 3 matches on the road, never easy, no matter what sport it is. The schedule didn't do you any favors there. And they are going to come in with a chip on their shoulder because they've gotten off to a very rough start, the Houston team, before you come home for the home opener against Rice on Sunday. But tell me about Houston. Are you surprised at how they've had a rough start so far?
I am, because I think they're pretty good. And I think the start is not indicative of who they are as a team. They've got some they're returning a Conference Player of the Year. Yep. They're returning some big guns, and I think they're pretty good. So, they have struggled a little bit. They have a new setter this year, and sometimes you struggle early with a new setter. But that's the thing is we're getting the struggling teams at their place. Really would like to have them at our place, but that's just the quirk of the schedule. So it is what it is, and we have to go play the match. And it's a team that I think is going to be pretty good at their place, and we're just going to have to rise to the occasion and compete. We compete, we've got a chance. We've got a chance, we can win.
That too, and also it comes back around because the back end of the conference schedule is loaded up with home matches, so you got to be happy about that. Looking forward to that.
Well, it is, and hopefully we're hitting our stride about that point, and we're hitting final exams and late term papers and things like that. And it sure is nice to have those when you're at home because the academic stress mounts late October, early November, and we're going to spend a good part of that at home, which is always a good thing for a young team.
Let's take a look at the national picture and another little bit of a shakeup in the top 25. Penn State lost again this week. They're now 11-2, and of course they dropped down to 4th. Stanford's still number 1 at 11-0, but because Penn State lost, that means that Florida Gators move up to the number 2 spot. Tell me about your impressions of that, of what has happened in the national picture over this past week now that UF is biting on the heels of Stanford again.
Well, I think it's good for Penn State to have somebody like Illinois in the conference. Kevin Hambley, a former assistant coach with the U.S. national team, has done a whale of a job with that program, recruiting especially, and then training on top of it. He's got that Illinois team running on all facets right now, and they're only going to get better.
Yeah.
So I could see them at some point surpassing Penn State in the Big Ten. But that's good for that conference because now that adds a little bit of parity, and those teams get tested early on, which will bode well for them come NCAA tournament time. Florida, by virtue of their wins, continues to move up. I think Stanford's been the number 1 team all along, and finally that one voter decided that they were going to give Stanford the vote, and now Stanford's now a unanimous number 1. But again, I think it's early. I think what's going to happen is the teams are going to win their conferences, and they're going to go through, and they're going to have success. But what team improves between now and Thanksgiving? That's the team that you need to watch out for. Not what they've done up to this point, but the team that improves between now and Thanksgiving, and where they are come regional final time. That's going to tell you who's got a chance to win it all.
I want to talk big picture about conferences for a little bit as well. I mean, we know all about the Pac-10, how great the Pac-10 is. We know how good the Big 12 is in volleyball. But the SEC just seems to be so close, but they can't quite get through that glass ceiling. Of course, Florida's been there for I don't know how many years in a row now. They've been one of the better teams coming out of the Southeast. Number 2 in the country now. LSU right now is ranked number 16. They've gotten off to a very good start. Tennessee's moved up to 23. What do you think is what is preventing the SEC from really breaking in and making it a Big 3 conferences rather than the Big 2?
Yeah, I don't think it's anything preventing them. I think they've got history against them right now, and let me explain that. I think you've got the Pac-10 and you've got the West Coast teams, including Long Beach and Hawaii and those guys. Traditionally, since the early days of college volleyball, that was the power. The power began to expand into the South, into Texas, into the Midwest, into the Big Ten world. And I think what happens now, you go back 10, 15, 20 years, SEC is now putting the same resources into having good programs as the Big Ten did 20, 25 years ago. Yeah. And so I think that's all it is that there's a natural progression that the SEC is right on target, where 5 years from now we're not even going to be asking that question because Tennessee's putting in money, Kentucky's putting in money, Florida's always put in that kind of money, Georgia's putting in money. And so those teams that are putting in money, they have an opportunity to go ahead and recruit the big athletes because of facilities and bells and whistles. Once you get the athletes, they have to mature and they have to develop that winning culture. Once that's done, then you can be a national champion. So I don't think it's anything that they haven't done other than it just hasn't gone through the natural process of maturing. Florida really is the only program to solidly go through that process. Tennessee, LSU, Kentucky, Georgia, those teams are not that far behind, and it's just a matter of years before you've got SEC teams in it every year.
I neglected to mention the Big Ten as well, too, and I apologize for that to the coach from Michigan. Now, as we take a look at actually, as we're heading towards our home opener here at UCF, don't forget that's against Rice this coming Sunday, 1 p.m. Eastern at the venue. Of course, it's Eastern. 1 p.m. here at the venue. Don't miss it. Make sure you check out UCFathletics.com for all the latest information regarding UCF volleyball, and I know you really quickly are looking forward to finally having that conference home match to go to.
Well, our own beds, our own food, our own environment, our families are going to be here, and that's always an exciting thing. And I think we're going to put together a really nice effort at home, but we're going to try to do it at Houston first, and then bring that momentum back home.
That's right. All right. Well, for the coach, Todd Dagenais, I'm Jeff Sharon. Don't forget to check out UCFathletics.com for all your UCF volleyball information, and follow the Knights on Twitter at UCF_volleyball. For now, I'm Jeff Sharon. This has been Holding Court with Todd Dagenais. We'll see you next week.